Well, cheers there to Rory, catching up with Will Chadwick, talking a little bit about the karting. Of course, they've been doing all trying to get all the teams on social media and stuff. We love that kind of stuff. All the teams are encouraged this weekend. There's a little bit of a prize as well for them. Fantastic stuff.
Yeah, brilliant. And also Will Chadwick talking candidly about FaZe's hopes and expectations, I think, coming through towards this event. He alludes to the fact, obviously, Ulas Azildarim stepping up to the car. They're looking to feed off his experience in sim racing generally. Obviously, when it comes to Rennsport, he was there in the spring season, carries certainly lots of it in abundance. But I think they definitely did have a lot of fun karting too.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, there's been a lot of people out karting. They were out karting yesterday. I heard from Jean-Marco about how much fun they were out doing that. But, you know, We'll focus a little bit more about what we're talking about here, about the split that we're in. Of course, realistically, the teams that we're kind of looking for, we're looking at some big teams obviously at the front, but you've got teams like BMW and Team BS Competition, Ryan Barneveld. I mean, Monza's a good track for him. We saw that excellent that overtake. It was the runner-up on the KFC Colonel's Choice for overtake of the day. Did a double overtake into the Parabolica. It was excellent stuff. He's quite good round here.
He is, and I think obviously when you looked at that move heading through, it was so opportunistic heading through Kerber Alboreto, and unfortunately it wasn't until we entered Monza again that Moritz Luna would go and steal it away from him. But BS Competition, definitely a team in development, lots to work for, lots to hope for as well. They've got Bruno Spengler in their corner as well, which is certainly a very, very useful figure to have behind them. But Ryan Barneveld certainly did deliver in that instance. But qualifying underway, Lewis.
Yeah, Dara McCormack then will be the first one to take us through the qualifying lap. He did win around here in the Munich Major, just in the very first couple of races that we did there. He won back-to-back to open the Sunday to the Rennsport Summit. Unfortunately, then the rest of the day kind of didn't go quite his way, but Dara McCormack will be the first driver to set a lap time around the Autodromo Internazionale di Monza. The first sector is aiming for around about a 34.7, and guess what he's just set, George? He's just set a 34.7.
He certainly has. 34.7 is where he needs to be, and now a very, very mighty Sector 2 is what's required. And Dara McCormack, his emotions certainly coming into the closing stages of the Drivers' Championship certainly wasn't that of being, should we say, optimistic. He was very disappointed with what had happened in terms of his run. Wasn't able to make it through towards the final echelons of the individual, the Drivers' Championship that we of course crowned Maximilian Benneker in, but this time he has a great chance to redeem himself here in the Team's Championship.
35.5 in the middle sector, he's aiming for 35.7, losing out a little bit through the first and second Lesmo into Ascari, using the curb on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, on the left-hand side once again before the run-off. A bit of a shake of the head. Dara McCormack's not particularly pleased with this lap, but having a few conversations with him, I think sometimes Dara is one of these drivers that puts a little bit too much pressure onto his own shoulders. Keep his eyes focused on the road. We'll see what the first lap time will be, and then we'll get the master of Monza coming round, Marcel Chinchik, the next driver to do so. It is a strong group, as all of them are, but the first driver to set the lap time will be the Williams Esports driver, Dara McCormack, up towards line. 46.0 is what he's aiming for. He's a little bit higher than that. I think it's going to be, that's a decent final sector to be fair, ending with a 46.197. That might well be good enough for something around about third or fourth, but I get the feeling this driver might take pole.
He could well do, especially after what he did yesterday. Qualified pole on both occasions, so he went into finalist mode. Obviously, as the drivers were hunting for it, Chinchik certainly did so, and here at the Temple of Speed is where he certainly showed his pace. A 34.7 in the first sector is very good. A 35.5 is very good in the second sector. This Sector 3 time needs to be stellar if he wants to try and hold on to the top time. Most certainly will head up to the top ahead of Dara McCormack. 84 thousandths faster as well, but here comes James Baldwin.
Yeah, so losing out a little bit, James Baldwin in the first sector, so 37.8, so it's a tenth and a half down, about a tenth down in the second sector, but actually slightly faster than what Dara McCormack had set, so kind of finding a little bit of equilibrium with the Williams Esports drivers' times, so he might well find himself around McCormack once this lap time has ended. They can find a little bit more time in that final sector as well. Baldwin will come up towards the line. He might well go to second. It's not good enough. Third is what he will set, a 46.2.
Yeah, Mercedes having a tough time at the moment as well. Team boss Mark Wello, I'm sure, will be trying to push them onwards. We just saw as well, speaking of team bosses, Will Chadwick having his interview with Rory Alexander. This is the man that he's placing his faith in here on this occasion, here at Monza. Of course, the Turkish driver, Ulas Özildirim, who set a 34.8 in the first sector. Of course, 34.7 is where we would see him rather be. 35.6 in that middle sector is just about a tenth off where he probably would wish he was, as well as he makes his way up towards the line. Where's it going to push him? 4th fastest, just over 2/10 slower than Marcel Cinchik.
Yeah, I've got to say it was decent actually from him. Unfortunately, it's not going to be decent for Isaac Price. First sector's a couple of tenths off, and then the second sector is way off. 2.5 seconds, and he doesn't look particularly fast in the final sector either. So I think maybe 1, maybe even 2 slowdown penalties for Isaac Price. He'll come through the final corner and up towards the line, and I can tell you where this is going to go. It's going to remain in 5th, but it will most likely be last position of 48.9, 2.7 seconds off of the pole, losing 2.5 seconds courtesy of that slowdown penalty. But Mac Backham is next and is tracking decently.
Yeah, a welcome return for the big Mac Backham. The first sector, not necessarily the best, but not too bad. He's there in the midst, 34.8. Middle sector is where he needs to be, 35.5. So now taking the Porsche through the final corner at Kerber Alboreto, as he'll now make his way through towards the line once again. As now the Porsche Commander driver now heads through past the pit lane on the right-hand side, taking a very aggressive tight line as well on entry across that line too. 146.230 places him 3rd fastest, just over a 10th out.
Yeah, oh, that is a slow middle sector from Johan Harth, so there'll be more shakes ahead. So Isaac Price is not going to be last in the session, I can tell you that. If he's set at 41.7, that's about 2 seconds slower than Isaac Price's second sector. So unfortunately for the Apex Racing team, the fight in the Teams Championship is not going to get off to a particularly good footing, at least in qualifying. Johan Harth will come through the final corner. Might not even be sub 50. I think even you could beat that, Morgan. Up towards the line he'll go. It's not even below that. It's a 1 minute 52.749. Very disappointing for Johan Harth, but that's what these slowdowns do. Luke Bennett, here's a driver who really wants to recover from a couple of days ago.
Let me dust off my sim gloves, Lewis McGlade. As now we see Luke Bennett make his way through Kerber Alboreto, 34.8 in the first sector, losing a 10th on that occasion. 35.5 though looks good in the middle sector, looking to bounce back after the hardships of late, but second fastest would certainly help. 23 thousandths off Marcel Cinchik at the top.
That's a decent lap time from Luke Bennett in all of that. Ryan Barneveld, one of the drivers that we were keeping our eye on. Like we said, we've seen his overtaking prowess around this circuit. Unfortunately, the speed not quite there on this lap. Down a little bit in the first sector, at a 10th and a half off of where I'd kind of expect them to be. Second sector, though, is right on the money, a 35.5. That is very strong indeed. Barneveld will come through the final corner and up towards the line. I think it's tracking for somewhere around where Baldwin is. And it's just ahead of Baldwin, so he goes into 5th place for the BMW M Team BS competition. That's
a cracking time for BMW. I think they'll take the positives out of that one. Ryan Barneveld giving himself a chance. Thomas Tatler would look to do the same. 34.7 in the first sector is where he needs to be. 35.7, not necessarily where you need to be. 2/10 off is where he's lost it in the middle sector. Bit of a contrast to the big max time that we saw earlier on. Matt Backham, of course, now 4th fastest. Of course, Dara McCormack ahead of him because Luke Bennett has gone 2nd fastest, as we alluded to earlier. The Flying Finn, Thomas Tatler, though, will make his way down towards the line. Where's this going to place him in all of this? Goes up to 6th fastest and ahead of James Baldwin too.
Yeah, let's see about the final couple of lap times though. Yuri Kasdorp, who actually really impressed us when it came to Thursday's action. Unfortunately disappointed a little bit yesterday, but Kasdorp being one of those drivers, he finished a 2nd and a 3rd, including a 2nd around here in his group when he was in Group B, obviously on Thursday afternoon. The first sector is a little bit down, the second sector is a little bit down as well. Could well be tracking for around about 8th position around Ulas Ozildirim. Just ahead of him is where he goes, so 8th position. That's a tight session though, just 2/10 between the top 9.
Yeah, absolutely right indeed. His best qualifying session yesterday was of course 6 at Monza. Of course now here again, 8th fastest this time, as we now see Lasse back representing the Furia team. Now sending it through the Kerber Alboreto once again, and now the Dane is going to try and unlock this one. 35 though, certainly 3/10 off in that first sector. 35.7 drops him another 2/10. This is looking like 5/10 down, and he'll need to equal that. Well, certainly a fast 3rd sector as well if he wants to nail down a fast lap time, but this looks like it might disappoint him. 10th fastest though for the Dane Lasse back, but he'll be back again, I'm sure.
Yeah, certainly so. Not ideal for Furia to start out in that sequence, but it is what it is. And of course, it's the master of Monza, Marcel Cinchik, looking strong. We know how strong he is. We know how powerful he is around this circuit. We'll take a look at the starting grid for the very first race here in the Teams Championship at ESL R1, sponsored by Aramco. Marcel Cinchik will be starting at the front of it, though. And like you say, incredible lap. Once again, he's so consistent around here.
He's so good, isn't he? That's 3 wins on the spin at Monza. The Temple of Speed certainly does. Oh, wow, has certainly provided him with plenty of great moments. And certainly this one is going to add to the list. And hopefully he can bring it home, Lewis.
Yeah, certainly so. So the ALJ fastest qualifying lap is, once again, Marcel Cinchik around here. But Of course, today is about being selfish. You've got to score as many points for yourself whilst helping the team. Tomorrow's a very different ball game. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on as to how things tomorrow are going to work. But right now, whilst there's a team's championship, you're the only driver representing your team in your split. It's not just about you, it's about what you do for your teammates. The last thing you want to do is be the one driver that doesn't score enough points to move them through. That's the big thing. There's a lot of pressure on these drivers' shoulders.
A lot of weight on the shoulders. The whole hopes and dreams of your entire team are now on your back. And with big, hefty prize money, $600,000 US up for grabs for the winner. Doesn't speak greater volume than that, really, does it?
Yeah, when you've got $600,000, it's an incredible opportunity for these drivers, incredible opportunity to these teams. Winning $250,000 for a couple of days of racing is not bad. Obviously spread across the team. It's tough. It's tall. I mean, the thing is, the pressure from the driver side of things has already ended, because that ended yesterday, in a sense, from obviously Maximilian Benneker taking the championship. But now it's more about, like I say, you've got to work as a team. You've got to think about what your team's doing and respond from that later on. Well, we'll take a look at the starting grid then. From the rear of the field, Johan Harth, after those slowdown penalties, was starting from 12th, then 11th for Isaac Price, 10th for Lasse Bak, and 8th for 9th obviously for Ulas Ozildirim. 8th place for Yuri Kasdorp before we get to 7th and James Baldwin, and then the top half of the field sees Thomas Tattler in 6th place, Ryan Barneveld in 5th. We know he can do some double overtakes around here. Mac Backham will start from 4th for Porsche Coanda before we get to the Williams Esports man of Dara McCormack. The front row sees Luke Bennett trying to make a massive recovery, and of course the ALJ fastest qualifying lap is once again Marcel Chinchik. It's not by a big margin, but pole position counts all the same, and that long run down towards the first corner here, those extra couple of meters make all the difference.
You have to strap that defensive helmet on, because he's going to be challenged without any shadow of a doubt. And let's just talk about Ryan Barneveld. One double overtake equals a podium. That's exactly what he's going to be chasing. Maybe something a little more, so sit tight. But Chinchik starting on the front row and in front. Is there anybody who can stop this man around the Temple of Speed?
Do you know? I don't think so. I just don't think so. I think he's so strong, he's so consistent. Luke Bennett, though, on the front row, surely he's going to be super aggressive trying to get down the inside straight away.
Yeah, I think so. He's got to take his chance early on, because once you let Marcel go, he's gone. But take it away, Lewis.
Yeah, certainly so. So they're getting ready. They're in the final moments of warming. Yeah, no, I saw it. I saw live. I was ready. I was ready. I was almost pouncing on that one. But still, they're wrapping up those final moments of warm-up, the final couple of laps being ended, the final seconds being put onto the card. And of course, they'll all line up onto the grid. This is the part that I always hated the most as a driver. You've got so much pressure, you've got so much tension around.
Yeah, I mean, when you sat there as well, waiting for the lights, it is certainly a very high tension moment, because everyone wants a clean run. They all want a clean getaway. That could be the difference between winning, losing, or even just bringing home a grand result. And every driver wants to improve throughout the race.
Yeah, big time. Andre Kunchman and Team Redline. Enzo Benito also sat there next to him, obviously in the ear of Luke Bennett, starting from second in this race. R8G will also be looking strong. Here we go then. The lights are coming on, and we are about to go racing for the first time here on Saturday. The Teams Championship about to get underway. The lights start coming on. It's Marcel Chinchik, the master of Monza, starting from pole position, and we are underway for the first run down towards the rest of the video. But look at the start from Luke Bennett. He's absolutely nailed that as a Team Redline driver, and it is Bennett on a redemption drive at the moment, heading towards the front of the field as they head into the first braking zone. Bennett leads from Chinchik. Dara McCormack on the attack, who's going to send one down the inside of the Hungarian. He's the one that's hungry to move up the order.
Yeah, nothing left to chance from Luke Bennett, looking to bounce back after the hardships recently. A little bit of a tie-up as well further back. James Baldwin unfazed, still though being challenged by the mouse of Yuri Kasdorp. Further up as well, we have of course got that of the Porsche Coanda car, currently sat in behind that of the BMW belonging to Ryan Barneveld, who had a very, very good getaway. But have a look at this. Kasdorp down the inside of James Baldwin now as they enter the Roger chicane now, wheel to wheel. Baldwin says no, uses that that sheer brute force of that Mercedes AMG GT3. The stewards might frown on that though.
Yeah, obviously Kasdorp getting pushed out wide. Thankfully Kasdorp didn't lose. Oh no, he has lost a bit more because he's just dropped behind Isaac Price. There's absolutely nothing between those two coming down into the first Lesmo. On board with Dara McCormack now, who's just trying to close up to the rear end of Marcel Chinchik in that Audi R8 ahead. Then Luke Bennett. I mean, that's a brilliant start. He's got that translation just perfect for Team Redline.
Ryan Barneveld also gaining a place too, 4th place overall. Matt Backham in behind in 5th. The Big Mac back to charges. Kanstorp comes down the inside of Isaac Price as they make their way through the Ascari chicane, and on the outset, superb overtake from the Mouse as it now looks to creep back up, trying to recover after the loss heading through the Rogier, but Price, I'm sure, will be back in the fight as we now see more cars clambering, Lewis. It's a Fiesta down towards the what used to be called the Parabolica.
We're still calling it the Parabolica. I'm not having any of this, George. Tattler down the inside of Price there, so the position will switch. Price will drop back not one position, but two positions, maybe even three. Ulas Zilderim also going to make his way through. It could be three wide as well, because Lasse back for Furia is trying to get himself involved into the mix. First lap complete then here at Monza, and it was just about three wide. Isaac Price has gone from 7th down to potentially 11th as it's still three wide, because Johan Harth is into the mix down into the Rettifilio.
Seem to lose momentum heading through Ascari after losing out to Yuri Kastel, but three wide through the Rettifilio. You never see that, but you see it here at ESL R1, and on the outset as well, the man who paid the price was Johan Harth in all that battling. Lasse back though, and Isaac Price now set to duel as they make their way through Curva Grande, but the run from Johan Harth could prove fruitful. He's going to try and attack Lasse back, heading in towards the next chicane of the Rogier, looks to the outside, covering it off Lasse back. He had no choice.
No, good attempt though, good little effort from between the lot of them at the moment. Johan Harth for the Apex Racing team is scoring nil points, 0 points right now. He needs to get through 1, 2, 3 points. They could be the difference maker later on after 8 thrilling races today. On board with Isaac Price in that 10th position. You can see the gap, 1.1 seconds up towards Ulas Zilderim. There's another gap ahead of, behind James Baldwin, but Yuri Kastel is closing that one down. The next big gap is between Ryan Barneveld and Dara McCormack. There is quite a gap there, and that is exactly what Mac Backham is trying to leave Ryan Barneveld to close back up. If they start fighting and start squabbling, they will never battle for the race win.
Getting a little vibe from Marcel Chinchik. He's a little concerned about Dara McCormack in behind. He broke out of the aero of that of Luke Bennett up at the very top. Even though he's within 0.3 of a second, it could be for two reasons. Could be to try and reduce the temperature in the tyres, at the same time as well avoid Dara McCormack closing the gap and opening the door heading through towards Ascari. So already Chinchik applying some defensive mindset here. James Baldwin though, who is not going to be applying defensive, he's going to be applying the offensive. He now looks to try and launch a challenge on the Big Mac as he now looks to the outside. Could be a double overtake here if Ryan Barneveld's not careful. In comes the world's fastest gamer down the inside now. The Rettifilio chicane, turns 1 and 2 lights up. The Merc, magnificent Merc, moves up into 5th.
Did you see that from Dane though? Dane braked early. Dane was not getting involved in that fight. He's, again, as much as you have to be selfish in this race, you have to be about the individual. If you risk your points, you're risking the team's points. This is a team's championship today. There is no drivers' championship. They are all adding into one pot for the team. So if you start making mistakes, it's not just you that's cost a position. And Mac Backham, rather, I said Dane Warren. I've read that on a different piece of paper and I'm now committed to it. No, Mac Backham, I'll correct myself. He's playing his cards well here. Thinking about points, thinking about the long run, thinking about what will aid his teammates later on. If you have a solid start to this event inside the top 6, that's going to give your teammates the confidence to maybe go for something slightly more later on. There is a look over the shoulder of Marcel Chinchik in the inset picture. I'm not sure if he's feeling the pressure right now from Dara McCormack, but I can kind of get where you're coming from. He's not looking as calm and collected as we've seen before.
He was more concerned the previous lap. I think because the gap is a little wider, I think he feels a little bit more comfortable. I'll tell you a man who's not going to be feeling comfortable very shortly, though, is the driver we were analysing prior to the start of this race. That, of course, being Ryan Barneveld, the man who would secure that double overtake, heading through Monza last time around. Obviously, now we're seeing the cars come together still as Baldwin now looks to try and launch a charge. He's been patient again, just picking his standard braking point as he now makes his way out of Curva Alboreto this time. Could launch a charge heading down the long straight. All he needs is an aero draft heading from that BMW as they now stretch down towards turns 1 and 2. Rettifilio comes up next. Lewis, you'll surely take this one.
He's going for it. He's got to go for it. James Baldwin's got to the inside in the exact same place. He ticked off Mac Backham a lap ago. Marcel Chinchik not able to do it on Luke Bennett, but will James Baldwin do it on Ryan Barneveld? The answer to that question is yes. We were looking at the race leaders, but you can see behind, James Baldwin has worked his way through 4th position now for the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Esports team. And so Baldwin's doing what we know he does well. He's just picking up the pieces, picking up the points, and that's exactly the kind of drive that James Baldwin needs today.
Yeah, he is calculated, he is methodical, he's experienced as well across not just sim racing, but also in real life as well. You can just see Marcel Cinčić very physical, heading through the Rogier chicane, taking all the curbs, and a lot of the drivers do say they do like to tackle the curbs head on, especially when they're at the Nürburgring. Of course, we spoke about the chicane up there, the NGK. A lot of them take that very aggressive. The same concept applied here at the Rogier chicane here at Monza as well. The Seraglio straight comes up next this time, which will lead them towards the Ascari 2, as we can now see the BMW BS competition now looking to try and gain back on James Baldwin, who has now got a little bit of a gap to find. Darren McCormack, though, stellar drive so far, bouncing back from the hardships, as I said before, from previous. Williams need to reset, they need to regather themselves. Darren McCormack, definitely their figment, their team leader coming into the team's championship.
Yeah, well, I mean, you've got to say, two of the drivers on the podium right now are two drivers that really are doing that. I mean, it's not that they weren't in finalist mode yesterday, it's that they weren't in yesterday, because on Thursday they got knocked out courtesy of some mistakes from the pair of them, both of them as well, really coming at the Nürburgring. Luke Bennett and Darren McCormack both getting slowdown penalties, both dropping down the order, and both not really getting involved in the mix on data. We were expecting them to fight towards the front. It was big drama on that Thursday. Today is starting out a little more calm, a little more collected as well, and the LG driver to watch, of course, in between all that with Marcel Cinčić. Here comes Half.
Yeah, Johan Half now, the Frenchman, who's part of the Apex Racing team as well. He's going to make a nice, strong move here on that of Lasse back. The Team Furia has to only watch but make contact, though. A little bit of a nudge in the rear of Johan Half's Audi R8 as now they peel through down towards the Curva Grande. A little sigh there from the Dane, Lasse back. He had to forego the position. It was all said and done prior to the corner.
Certainly. So into the slipstream, Lasse back will go. Obviously not closing into enough to make anything stick coming down into the Rogier, but at the front, things are calm, but they're calm for now. Now, Luke Bennett obviously hanging on to the race lead. Marcel Cinčić in second, Darren McCormack in third. The teams, again, they are looking to be in the top 6 in the teams championship after this. Individual races hand out points at 25 for the race victory, 20 for second, 16 for third, 13, 11, 10, 8, sorry, I think it's 11, 10, 6, 4, 3, I can't do maths, it's fine. Never trust a commentator's maths. But basically, yeah, you get points as you come through. That change from 20 points to 25 points could be critical in the team's championship later on.
Very impressed with your maths, Lewis McGlade. It isn't far off at all. In fact, I'd say it's
10,
spot
there was
on.
no 11.
Oh, you were close. I'll give you that. But nonetheless, we're just watching them now make their way through. Now, you get the sense here, Lewis, going off the back of what we were saying about Darren McCormack as he has a look down the inside. Matt Backham out of track limits, I think, as well. And is being warned by that as well, as we now see them making their way down the long stretch. Darren McCormack, as I was saying, obviously off the back of the difficulties they have sustained. I get the feeling, Lewis, that the vibe this time around for the Williams driver, he's got to go for it here. And look at Cinčić. Well within a 10th, he's going to challenge for the lead.
Yeah, he's certainly going for it. RH going for it right now. Marcel Cinčić to the outside, coming into the Rettifilio. There's contact between the two, and that was a little bit dicey, but it is going to be Marcel Cinčić through. Darren McCormack also might do it on the exit of the Rettifilio. Luke Bennett might well drop from first to third. We head into Curva Grande. Darren McCormack just on the outside, wheel rubbing between the pair of them. This is going to go all the way up towards the Rogier.
Yeah, coming out of the Curva Grande, I suspected this might be the case from Darren McCormack. He needs to be a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more tactical, but makes the move, nearly makes contact with Marcel Cinčić. As they come through the Rogier, they didn't make contact, but it was oh so close. Bennett's going to come straight back at him, though.
That is terrifying. I thought McCormack had thrown it all away then. Thankfully, just needs to get inside or let himself calm down. Luke Bennett, I think, was actually playing that quite wisely. He wasn't trying to fight Darren McCormack too hard. It was just McCormack overdriving it himself. Thankfully, he's back into the slipstream. But look who's joined the fight. There was 1.1 seconds behind third in this battle and fourth in the race, with James Baldwin now closing up to 3/10. It's 5 for the race lead, with Ryan Barneveld also at the rear.
Yeah, they don't call him the world's fastest gamer for no reason, as we ride on board with Darren McCormack heading through Ascari. In front of him, he's got an Audi R8 LMS belonging to that of Marcel Cinčić, the man who is a 2-time winner at Monza from yesterday, who's looking to add yet another one today after taking pole on 3 consecutive occasions. Is this going to be a storybook finish here, certainly for Cinčić, or will McCormack ensure that he can land his Williams up on the top? I would say McCormack has got a little bit of pressure, though. He has got Bennett in behind. Baldwin's queuing up. Also enter Ryan Barneveld.
Yeah, the gaps are growing, but obviously into the slipstream think McCormack might well be able to close it in, maybe half a second, maybe even a little bit more than that. You can see the gap kind of coming down ever so slightly. It's not going to be close enough for any sort of move coming down into the Rettifilio, but it might be close enough for the slipstream to take more of a hold. You can see it dropping down there. It's close. This battle is not over for the race win. Marcel Cinčić is the master of Monza, but it is not done yet.
No, he certainly isn't. Luke Bennett, of course, getting a good view of James Baldwin's car in behind him. Obviously, he'll be very conscious of the fact he knows exactly what James Baldwin is all about, as do Mercedes themselves. They place a lot of faith and trust in this young man who has certainly been with them now for such a long time, competed across the realms of various championships, has won championships, also competing in the 24 Hours of Spa, as of course last year with Garage 59, as now they make their way through towards Lesmo 1. Cinčić still with the lead, but that gap now starting to filter outwards. I think Dara might be a little bit more concerned with what's going on behind right now.
Also could be the Merc tends to overheat his front tyres quite a bit, and so if that is the case, then that's what's allowing Marcel Cinčić to pull away in the final moments of this race. There's only 2.5 laps left to go. McCormack dropping out of that slipstream. It's in prime slipstream, around about half a second. I think I was hearing a stat, it was 0.511 of a second, as we'll kind of have to wait and see. But at the moment, he's hovering around that margin.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, it's looking interesting now as we see the cars make their way around. Superb, Lewis McLean. And now we see them make their way down through towards the Curva Alboreto again. Luke Bennett, we're riding on board with right now. James Baldwin urging closer though, within 0.2 of a second, near enough of the realm, and Luke Bennett dropping away from McCormack. McCormack finding a second wind here on Marcel Cinčić as well. Will need to utilise the drag to try and get closer. He won't make the move necessarily this time, but might be something coming up at heading around the Curva Grande, as now they hurtle down towards the Rettifilio now. There is Baldwin, right on the tail here, Lewis. He's looking threatening.
Yeah, there's Baldwin going for it. McCormack's also going for it. McCormack was just looking, but I think Baldwin is going for it. He's down the inside of Luke Bennett coming into the Rettifilio. You can see them switching on the timing tower. There was no move from McCormack. We look backwards down the order, and there was Ulas Zilderim looking down the inside of Yuri Kasdorp as well. But realistically, the bit we have to focus on is up the order. We have got 2 laps left to go and a 5-car battle for the race lead. Marcel Cinčić, Dara McCormack, James Baldwin, Luke Bennett, and Ryan Barneveld. Here comes Bennett back.
Yeah, Luke Bennett now looking to challenge and take the place that he lost to that of James Baldwin just now. He looks to switch all over the back of the Mercedes as Baldwin now looks to hold position. Has done brilliantly, but Bennett is no way near done yet. He has dropped down from the top right down to P4. Of course, that's the contrasted position since the start of the race, and Barneveld might also bring himself into the mix for BMW as well, heading through Lesmo 2. I tell you what, don't go away, folks. Grab your popcorn. You're going to be in for a thrilling ride on the final lap.
Yeah, certainly so. I mean, Monza is a great track when it comes to racing, and we're certainly seeing that now. Ryan Barneveld, got to say, doing a fantastic job. He's just not risking anything right now, and that's fine. He's scoring decent points of BMW M-Team BS competition. He's putting himself in a solid position when it comes to moving through in the drivers, but in the teams rather. But we have to wait and see how this is going to unfold through the day. It's just the first race here on Saturday, and we're already going to start losing our voices if this 5-car battle goes any further.
Fantastic penultimate lap, and now we'll very shortly enter the final lap. There you see Cinčić, who is going to get a full view of Dara McCormack, the Irishman, now looking to get a great exit here, heading through Curva Alboreto as they now look to streak down through past the pit lane on the right-hand side. The Williams breeze heavy as now it powers down, certainly towards turn 1. The Mercedes AMG with its mighty grunt comes alongside of the Audi now. Marcel Cinčić has got to give it everything, but Dara McCormack, he leads here, heading in towards turn 1.
Yeah, Cinčić didn't risk anything. He actually lifted out of that one to allow McCormack to go through. He's not risking anything. 20 points is better than being in the gravel trap, and Marcel Cinčić knows that. You can see it. He's pulled straight over to the left-hand side. That's not because he wants to go on the attack. That's because he wants to not get in the slipstream. He doesn't want to fight McCormack. He knows that second is good enough, but this battle for third is right on. James Baldwin, Luke Bennett to the outside as they come towards the Rogia. Surely there's nothing on there.
No, James Baldwin once again covering it off as he did so before. Luke Bennett threatening to try and bring it back. Barneveld there to pick up the pieces should something go wrong. He's a mastermind, a masterstroke here at Monza for making the double overtake, as we saw earlier on this week in this series. Dara McCormack, though, marshalling enough of a deficit. He looks in control here at this moment in time, Lewis. I don't think Cinčić wants to risk it.
No, certainly not. Like I say, the pair of those, McCormack and Cinčić, will come across the line in first and second unless McCormack or Cinčić makes a mistake. This is where the battle is. Can James Baldwin defend? He takes the inside line coming up towards Ascari. Bennett goes to the outside. outside. They'll head their way through. Bennett's not going to risk that. Again, 10 points, 13 points. You want to have that. You don't want to be in the gravel trap. James Baldwin is going to be able to hang on, but it's not done yet. We've got the run down towards the Parabolica, but down towards the Curva Alboreto, and Dara McCormack is just about in that position. Let's see if there's going to be a look, though, from Luke Bennett. We head down the final straight. Luke Bennett's going to go to the outside. The defensive line's being taken. That's got to be up there with defensive drive of the day, by the way, already from James Baldwin. He's done a fantastic job to hang on to third behind Marcel Chinchik, who doesn't win around Monza this time. It is Dara McCormack dethroning the master of Monza on top for Williams as he crosses the line to take his first victory here today.
Fantastic result for Dara McCormack. He had a painful Drivers' Championship run, but has turned it all around here in the Teams' Championship. Our first race kicks off with a bang, and it's Dara McCormack. The Williams team celebrate here in style at Monza.
Yeah, certainly so. And like you say, to have done it against someone like Marcel Chinchik, that is tasty. I know Chinchik didn't put up a mega fight, but you can see this is why it's a Teams Championship. Daniel Pastor there on the right, Kuba Brzezinski in the middle, Jack Keithley on the left, already over to celebrate with Dara McCormack. A little bit of a breather before they head into the next race. Thumbs up to the camera as well from McCormack. Like you say, that will give him a good push later on. And remember, when we started the Sunday at Munich, Dara won both opening races.
He did. Could this be a sign of things to come, Lewis?
He's only got 2 races to do today, so if he wins both of those, he'll be putting his team in a great position. He'll climb out of the rig briefly, of course, before he starts his preparation for the next circuit and the next race, because obviously, when you take victory, you need to tell us how you did it. How on earth were you able to beat a driver like Marcel Chinchik?
Absolutely. Well, he's on standby here, but a stellar approach. He'll be a happy boy now after what has been a difficult time, but getting that Williams back to the top, and surely be looking forward to yet more grand results.
Certainly so. We'll see Dara McCormack there. Obviously, you've got Atik, you've got Barney waiting by. We'll catch up with those in just a couple of seconds' time, because after a brilliant drive comes an interview. After a domination comes more pressure potentially, but he has left himself in position to put Williams right towards the top of the Teams Championship.
Oh, that's a bit more like it, isn't it? Now I am believing the hype. What an incredible race. And what I have to say is, that was a huge battle going on throughout that. And I feel like you bided your time really well and executed right on time. But how was it for you?
Yeah, it was great. I just wanted to stay consistent, stay clean. I was a bit tight on warnings, so I needed to make sure in that last lap I didn't get anything. So I made sure every overtake was clean, concise, and no mistakes.
بالضبط اللي شفناه من الدارة في السباق الماضي أدى أداء جدا ممتاز. احنا سألناه انه كيف كان أدائك بشكل عام، ذكر قال أهم شيء كان بالنسبة لي إني أكون بمستوى الثابت وأحاول أحافظ على الثبات حتى برضو في القيادة عشان أقدر أتفوق في السباق، والحين اللي باقي في السباق الثاني بيحاول يمشي فيه بنفس الطريقة.
Well, you can dust that one off. You got points on the board now, which is amazing news. Nürburgring's up next. How are you feeling about that?
Let's just not repeat what I did the other day. But if I do, but it is what it is. I've picked Nürburgring because I want to make sure, or at least try to get rid of that mistake that I keep making in that last chicane. So if it doesn't go right, it doesn't go right. I'll make it up in the race. Yeah, I'll try my best.
المضمار الجاي نبغى نعرف كيف راح يكون أداء دارا فيه، فذكر أن المضمار الجاي بالنسبة له ما يبغى يكرر فيه الغلط المرة الماضية، وهو اختار تحديدا هذا المضمار بس عشاس أنه يصحح من غلطه في المرة الماضية، ويبغى يتأكد أن نتخطى كل الأخطاء اللي كان يرتكبها.
A brave man taking it on once again. I like it. Now, thank you so much for joining us in your post-race interview. I know you've got to get back into your rig and get yourself set. So best of luck. Second race of the day, and we wish it goes the same way.
Well, good luck also Dara for your next race. لكن الحين أعزائنا المشاهدين خلونا ننتقل مرة ثانية على الاستديو نشوف تفاصيلها ونرجع لكم في السباق اللي بعده.
Yeah, let's go back over to the desks to continue our first day of the Team Championship.